Super excited. So welcome to this Insider Talk with the Mill and with Patrick and Ilgi, who I will introduce in a second. I'm going to show a really cool little video of the Mill as well, just so that you guys can see some of their work. I don't know. So here's a little cute snippet of some of the works of the Mill. So some event highlights for today. You're going to gain insights from Patrick and Ilgi, top creatives who worked on Marvel films, campaigns for major brands like Google. We're going to really talk about, the Mill's also company culture. And I'm sure we're going to hear that from both of them as well about, what sets the Mill apart from the industry and what it's like to actually work there. We'll also be talking a bit, I'm sure, throughout all the questions that you guys will be asking about the essential skills, that it takes to thrive as an intern or a junior in this industry. And then you'll get a chance to engage with obviously amazing experts in this live Q&A session. So just to kind of introduce our speakers here, we've got Patrick, head of design. So Patrick is an incredible artist with a strong background in post and design. His portfolio includes successful entertainment projects, I guess small ones that we've never heard of, like Marvel's Captain America and Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. So we're so happy to have you here, Patrick. It's really cool to have somebody of your caliber to share their knowledge with all of us, I guess, a bunch of eager people to know more. So thank you for being here. And
my pleasure.
And we've got Ilgi here, who is an art director, over 10 years of experience in the VFX and motion industry. So Ilgi is known for her title sequence designs in TV shows and movies like Silicon Valley, Mulan, Batman, and Sonic 2. Ilgi also has been a creative force behind campaigns like major corps such as AT&T, Comcast, and Google. You might have heard of them. So Ilgi, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge as well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'll briefly, so this is just a little bit of the different areas of the Mill. I'm sure you guys will introduce that a little bit more. Before we start, I'm going to briefly introduce our program so that you know who we are. By the way, my name is Laura Bennegadi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ArtBound Initiative. So just a 1-minute introduction. We're a program who aims to help students and fresh grads to break into the creative industries. That's really our mission. We know that those fields are not easy to get in and very competitive. So we have, our programs includes a lot of personalized coaching and professional development through a curriculum that's all around that about, that lasts about 2 to 3 months, where you're learning a lot of the, pragmatic stuff that you need to enter the workforce, like talking to recruiters and people in the field to do your resume and portfolio and learning about the workforce. We also offer, an internship placement, a guaranteed internship offer, as well as a lot of personalized support throughout the entire journey. And we have a lot of events, and we, really focus a lot around networking, because we know that's the most important thing in this field. So we have a few destinations that we offer: New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Berlin, Melbourne, Sydney, and we have a robust virtual program as well since COVID, because now we can be on this remote game. So those are the areas that we're offering. And then the industries are only in creative areas, I will say. We're pretty specialized in that. So anything in advertising, communication, marketing, entertainment, media, design, fine arts, and fashion. So that's a little bit more about us, just so that you know who's talking and who's presenting. Also, this event, you can, stop here this QR code if you want to check your eligibility to the program. Not everybody can be eligible. It's going to be depending on your major, where you want to go, a lot of different things. So feel free to check in if you want to see that. So without further ado, I think we're going to start with, our events. And I'm really excited. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen for now, if that's okay with you guys. We can just chat a little bit. Maybe before we start, Ilgi, I'd love to perhaps just hear a little bit of a, short intro from you, and also same thing for you, Patrick, and then we can dive right in some questions.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Ilgi Dyer. I'm an art director at the Mill. It's actually has been almost a year that I've been at the Mill, and it's been an amazing journey. I've done all kinds of projects, from title sequences to brand, like big campaigns of the brands and TV shows, UI design, anything you can think of that includes motion graphics. I had to experience, even experiential design. I've touched in every kind of field that motion design actually touches. So I'm hoping that if you have any question in any field, uh, I can assist you at least for today and answer some of your questions.
Amazing.
But yeah.
Thank you. And maybe Ilga, before we move forward to Patrick, like tell us a little bit like what is your role at the Mill, just so that I think art director is like this title that a lot of people are dreaming about and have maybe a little bit less understanding of. So perhaps could you tell us a little bit more what your role is at the Mill and what type of projects do you typically work on?
Well, what art director does, I help the creative director, such as Patrick here. I help, we have a team, creative director, art director, and we have designers. We get a brief from the client. We create design frames, style frames, and even motion tests based on that brief. And then when we get the project, I make sure that we get everything executed in the way that was, presented during the presentation to the client. And I'm working closely with the creative director and making sure that all our designers are on track and, making sure that we're producing stuff as efficiently as possible. But that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much it. And I'm working on literally any type of project that you can think of. We're right now doing a big campaign for another brand. We just finished a promo for a TV show. We just did a huge project on the Sphere, which was very intense. So, and anything you can think of.
I love that you have this variety also of different mediums and different
Yeah.
people.
That's the beauty of the Mill, actually. At the Mill, we get to work on so many different various type of jobs, and it never gets boring.
I love that. That's awesome. Thanks, Ilga. Patrick, tell us a little bit. I mean, obviously, head of design, we want to know like what first of all, tell us maybe a bit about you, and then also we'd love to hear a bit about what's your role. Like, what does the head of design do at the Mill?
I'm not even sure. I don't know what I do. I will say too, very quickly before I get into myself, Ilga is dramatically downplaying her position in the team and all the different responsibilities that get thrown her way. So I just want to make sure that she's painting herself in an accurate picture. She is a vital person in our team. So, she only described just a couple top level things, but there's much more that she does than that. Anyway, hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. This is always fun. I like interacting with, people that are coming into the industry. It's sort of a tumultuous time, I think, in your lives when you're finishing your degree or you're deciding how to get into the industry. I can remember back when I was doing that, it was hard and there was not a lot of support for when I was coming out of college. So I think this is like a really neat program. So I can understand that this would be like really, really helpful to a lot of people. So I started working back in 2004. It's a really long time. I worked my way up. Back then, motion graphics was more of the term than motion design, and it was a little bit earlier in its sort of career. And so, like, I've been through a lot of different processes and stages of this work as it's sort of evolved and become much more refined in many ways, but also much more diverse too. I worked my way up through designer and senior designer and art director, creative director, and now as head of design for the Mill. So yeah, I've done a lot of different work, from experiential projects, entertainment work, like some of the Marvel stuff that was described earlier. And then with the Mill, we are primarily known for doing advertising work, although we do other things too. Our department is up for an Emmy for Cabinet of Curiosities. It's a Netflix TV series. So we do get into the entertainment work still, but we're primarily known in the advertising space. So, and then my role for the mill is the mill is a global company. We have multiple offices all across the world. So I am basically one of 3 heads of design across our group. We interact just constantly as the heads of design to make sure that we have parity and similarity across all of our design teams. But I am doing all things from creative directing work and trying to win work and pitching on work to staffing jobs and bidding jobs, making sure that we're setting ourselves up to do a job under budget, you know, and being successful from like a business standpoint. I am working to bring artists on board and getting them in freelance or in full time. Ilga being a major win to bring her into our fold, and hiring her last year was major. But all the way down to junior artists and interns too. So that's a big thing. And then just a lot of process. There's a lot more that goes into our work than just the creative and just like the visual that we do. And so I'm helping to incorporate a lot of the sort of back end parts that let us do the job.
Right. At your level, it's a lot also of management. And I think a lot of creatives are not kind of like maybe thinking about that right in the beginning, that they're also going to have to be building a lot of those skills, right? Because as they go, it's going to be a lot more of that.
A lot of that for sure. And so, you know, in your career, you work your way up. You know, you're not expected to be a senior designer right when you're sort of like getting in to the field, for example. And so I've gained a lot of experience in my career over time. But yeah, for sure, management, helping with career growth too. Once we hire people, just making sure that there's a trajectory from someone that comes in as an intern or a junior, they can work their way up to mid-level and senior designer, art director, et cetera.
Super cool. Super cool. Can you explain to us a little bit about the mill? Just if you can give, I mean, obviously we're starting to kind of understand a little bit, like, you know, different projects, but also kind of with a strong focus in advertising, like where you talked about, like, you know, getting projects from clients, like how is it like how do you guys work, like how do you plug yourself into projects? Maybe, I mean, just a quick overview for us to understand, because I think there's not too much clarity of, like, you know, when do you start working with studios or with brands, like at what stage do you guys work with them? I think that would be really awesome for us to understand a little bit more.
Sure. It really varies quite a bit. It can be a lot of different ways. So we work with either directly with our client. So, you know, whatever brand you might think of, we can work with them directly, or we can work with an advertising agency who's sort of a middle person, and they're kind of like distributing the work that we do. They're also thinking about a radio campaign and, you know, the packaging, and they're thinking about everything for a certain brand, right? So ours is only a portion of what they're actually doing. So those are the kind of the main 2 connections to the work. And then from there, it can really vary how they approach us. It can be very natural. It could be relationships. It could be they know our work and they approach us that way. It can be us seeking them out too. If we're really excited by a client and we want to work with a certain client, then we'll go after them too. So it can be very organic, and there's never really like a formulaic way of getting a new client.
Understood. It's always fascinating to hear, right? To kind of like understand how the relationships play along. So it's cool to know that it's also relationship driven too, right? To kind of get projects. Yeah. So Ilgi, tell us a little bit about, like, you know, how did you start, like, in your career? Like, what was, you know, I guess what were the first steps, right? And then Patrick, I want to hear that from you as well, back in 2004 when you were saying, but just like those first jobs, like what were they? How did they look like?
Well, my path is not, it wasn't straightforward, honestly. I am from Turkey, so I was an international student in America. In my, when I was in college, I always dreamed about working on a Pixar movie. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, you know, I don't know what they were doing, but I wanted to do those, like what part of it, and any part of it, I wanted to do it. And then in undergrad, I studied visual communication design, which was like a little bit of everything. So I didn't get to learn animation the amount that I wanted. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of like resources, online resources. I think there was like Linda, that was like a tutorial website or something. That was pretty much it. That was pretty much it. So I decided to do an animation master's in San Francisco because Pixar was in San Francisco and I wanted to be physically close to it. And then I started studying animation and I realized that I hated it. Like I didn't like animating characters. I took cell animation class. I was like, oh my God, this is torture. I really didn't like it. I saw everyone in the class and I was like, there's no way I am as passionate as any of these people about animation. Like they were so passionate about it. And then I realized I have a graphic design background. Maybe I can merge the two. So I switched studying visual communication design. I actually started, my first job was at Tippett Studios. I started as a compositor there because I was studying visual effects. So I worked on I think it's a TV show called Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then I worked on Million Ways to Die in the West, which was really fun. Those were my two like industry jobs as a compositor. And then I graduated and I found myself at a boutique company in LA called UN Company. They hired me as a compositor. They were doing title sequences. And I was kind of like looking over on everyone's shoulder and I realized, I think this is like, motion graphics is like my jam. So they said like, hey, do you animate? Do you design? And I said yes to everything. And then it evolved from there. I became a designer and then I became an art director. And then I worked on many, 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 many title sequences. And I found myself at the mill after all of those projects.
I think it's cool for us to also hear it, how it's real, like it's not, a lot of people think.
Yeah, it was like, is it gonna happen or is it this, is it that? And I understand, I was gonna say maybe later on, but there's no like one way of doing something or one way of going somewhere. It could sometimes feel like you're in a path and you have an idea of what you're supposed to do, but if a door opens, like it's okay to try it, or it's okay to give it a, if it doesn't feel right for you what you're doing, it's okay to change your path. It was like a big lesson to me. Like I didn't like what I was doing, so I changed it and it turned out really good.
Awesome. I think it's great for everybody to hear that, just so that it's not always a straight road. Thanks, Olga. Patrick, like, what were the first gigs like for you?
So the first gig that I remember was, because there just wasn't support at my college when I was graduating, they just had a cork board on the wall outside of like the admissions room, and there would just be like jobs posted to it, and they were random, and a lot of times they weren't even that great. And so I would just go to that before I graduated, and I started doing like t-shirt design and like anything I could get just to get experience and to get money, So I went for a 3D animation degree as well, just like Ilga. And so that wasn't even something that I was really trained for, but I just wanted to make something. I didn't want to go work at the grocery store or something. I wanted to do any creative jobs I could as a freelancer. So that was it. Really, then once I did a handful of those jobs, I basically made a new reel, and with all of my freelance jobs that I got within a year, I worked really, really hard to make a brand new reel for a year. And I sent that to a place and I got hired as an assistant like straight away. So I had, maybe luck and, maybe they saw something in me, but I was able to get employed pretty quickly.
Awesome. I love that. So the work for you, like it was also really focusing on building out a solid reel to kind of like hook the attention of some of those recruiters, right? I'm sure we'll talk about that. I'm seeing already in the chat a lot of questions about like how to get in, right?
Yeah, because I felt like, and I'm sure a lot of the people in this call are thinking the same thing that I was. Most of my work that I graduated with, actually all of it, was just my student work. And that was great. And that's where I was like cutting my teeth and I was learning how to create. But I really wanted to focus as hard as I could to have client work, things that had brands that I got paid for, that I could very confidently say like, no, this was a job that aired here or, was on this billboard or whatever. So it was really important. My friend kind of teases me because he says he didn't see me for a year while I just locked myself into my apartment and just worked, which is kind of true.
Well, I think that takes us also to I would love to. I had a lot of questions about like tips and things like that, but I'm seeing them in the chat, so I'm gonna let everybody's asking that. But perhaps this can make an interesting transition for, you know, if it's okay for us to maybe see a little bit about like what you're looking for when you're reviewing portfolios. I know there's a lot of like juniors coming through the mill, right? You guys are recruiting, like this is something that you're probably looking at a lot. So I don't know, I think we've got Yelena here who's able to share her screen, also Yelena from the mill as well. So is it possible for us to take a look at a couple things and you know, have a bit of feedback from you guys about what you're looking for in portfolios, or maybe some advice on that?
Sure. Ilgi, do you want to take that first, or you want me to?
I think for me, when I was, I did recently a portfolio review, and the most important thing I realized I'm looking at is to clarify what you did. Like, there's a lot of projects on your demo reel, but I don't know which part of it you did. I think clarifying what your role was or which part of that thing that you did is really important, because I I don't know. It's hard to, if you're looking for like let's say if I'm looking for an animator, I want to be able to understand that you can animate and you're the person that would be good for that fit. I think that's what I was looking for, and just like don't put everything, put the best of your work. Just curate. It's not good to have a lot of stuff. It's important to have good stuff. It's okay if it's less than, you know, what you think it was going to be. Just good, but like quantity over quality over quantity, I think. But yeah, what do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, I agree with those. I would say a demo reel is nice, but it's not completely necessary either. If you have multiple
True.
projects and you're able to have a breakdown of those projects and just show how you got from the early stages to a finished product, I think is really helpful to see someone's thinking and what their journey was. So I think that's always nice. I think trying to work in the medium that you want to get more work in is nice too. So if you want to go into entertainment work, that's important, and you want to do title design or whatever, try to show as much of that work as you can. Try to focus your reel in that area. If you want to do concert visuals, try to do that. You know, try to hone your things a little bit as much as you can. That also means that you're pigeonholing yourself and you're shrinking your opportunities for employers, but it can be done. I would say typography and how you can communicate is important. If you're able to like animate typography or logos, if you're trying to get into advertising, that's always helpful. If you want to do 2D animation or 3D animation or cell or whatever, I think just having like a very clear intent and focus is really, really helpful. It's not to say that you can't be a generalist too, because that's also good, but I think just you've got to really like make it concise. You know, like Ilga said, if you're going to do a demo reel, make it a minute. Don't make it any longer. And also put your personality in there. You know, try to show who you are in your work as much as you can. You know, talk about who you are, what your background is, what are you bringing to the table outside of just the work, because your background can influence your design work for sure. And it's nice to get to know someone via, you know, their background.
For sure. I'm like putting in the chat, by the way. I've taken some like some notes. I don't know if we've got some visuals that we can show from you guys. Can we see a little bit of your work as well? Like I don't know if you're still maintaining like I don't know what Yelena has, but we'd love to see a little bit of a visual before we get to the Q&A. I'm always super eager to see.
We don't have the updated websites, I have to say, unfortunately. I tried to update it, but I mean, of course.
Want to show yours first, Ilga?
Oh, do I do it?
Oh no, I can do it, but I have it up. Just give me one moment.
Okay.
Here we go. Can you see my screen?
This is still, see how I'm yes.
That's cool. Yeah, we can see it.
I am not, first of all, I am not super proud of my website, but it is working, so I'll take it. And as you can see here, I tried to put a range of projects here, because before it was kind of like Patrick was saying, because I found myself in a title sequence world, it was a lot of title sequences, and I couldn't get any other job but title sequence. You might ask, why would you want to do anything else? But you know, even that gets boring after a while. And I wanted to learn the business side of it a little bit. I wanted to work with brands. I wanted to do a little bit more commercial work. So I tried to put here and there. I had a couple of them, so I tried to put that on my website too. And now the more I do it, the more I will update it. But yeah, this is my website. So should we just look at a project together, or maybe you guys can pick one, or how should we do it?
They all look amazing. Perhaps you pick one, Ilga, so that you can tell us which one you like.
They're my babies. Yeah. Well, we can. Patrick, do you want to look at this one together since we did this one together? Is it kosher to look at it? Patrick and I worked on this together, and that's kind of I rushed myself to put this up there so we can talk about it together. This is one of the recent projects and one of the coolest project of the year, I have to say. We had the chance to help with their trailer with Modern Warfare 3 Makarov reveal. I think that's what they called it. We get to design 4 cool transitions. I think there's a YouTube link there that we could watch it too.
Oh.
If it uploads. Does it not work if you click on it?
No, it's just the Wheel of Death. It's not loading. Is it on YouTube?
It's not?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just pending.
Oh, weird.
Can I
Yeah.
find it? Oh, wait,
Loaded.
hold up. She's just slow.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me know when you want to play it.
Maybe you can go a little. I put the frames that we designed for it. So we had 4 transitions that we get to design. The task was to go from Makarov's these badass tattoos to the kind of transition to the game footage. So we came up with the most gruesome ideas that we could think about how to transition from tattoo world to the game world. And these 4 landed to the mark, basically. And these were, just so that I put it here so that you understand how we work. We first design frames, like transitions, kind of like storyboards, but it's a little bit more stylistic. You really paint a picture on how you will transition from one moment to another. And then once they approve, sometimes we do motion tests to show how it would move and how fast, how slow it will move. And once they approve all of this, we get to produce the actual work. Sometimes it happens simultaneously, but everything starts with frames, ideas. We make sure that they like those ideas, they like the look of things, and then we get to start the VFX and all the other stuff to it. But yeah, so we can watch it if you want. We can watch it now.
So cool, guys.
I don't know if it's gonna play.
Sorry, yeah,
real
we're
time.
asking. Oh, perfect.
Sorry, can you hear the sound?
Yeah. We cannot hear the sound, but you can, if you want to reshare with like optimizing sound, otherwise we can just watch the images. Up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, they can look at it afterwards too if you want.
Share,
'Cause it's
like,
not gonna.
would it be cool for us to share like your portfolio in the chat? Are you okay with that, so that people can like check out your work?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
They can
Let's do that.
look at everything.
I'll play it now. One sec.
We can
you
try
see
to
the full-
play it, but
Do you see the full screen?
the sound effects, it
Yeah.
adds to it.
It's playing kind of janky.
It's playing a bit slow. Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
let's encourage everybody to go check it out afterwards. You've seen that it's the second project of Ilgi called Modern Warfare 3. So easy to find. Wow, it looks so cool, guys.
And this was a very big collaboration between the design team and the CG team,
Okay.
which are two different teams. Design team came up with the ideas, and the CG team was responsible for, building all these compositing, all the CG elements, and modeling and animating.
Wow.
The blood that's dripping, it was all CG.
So there are CG teams also with the male, and you guys are kind of like working alongside.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
this is so cool. Is this out already? Sorry, guys, forgive my ignorance. Like this is already out.
The trailer is out,
Okay.
but the game comes out in like a week or two, I think, still.
Okay. Super awesome. And then I think I'd love for us to see maybe one last project from Patrick before we move on to the Q&A, because I know we've got so many cool questions that are like lining up. But if you don't mind, let's basically, I love that you're saying, oh, I don't like my website. Like your website is so awesome. And I think everybody like it's a great example to showcase also the structure of how you're able to like really put in a really neat way all your projects, right? So there's a lot of learnings from also seeing that for a lot of you guys, I'm sure. And I mean, Patrick, it'd be awesome to see perhaps like have a quick sneak peek on your work too before we get to those questions.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go quick. Yeah, I mean, the same kind of thing as Ilga. It's once you have a job, once you're employed, it's harder to find time to like keep your portfolio up to date for sure. So mine is definitely out of date as well. But kind of starting here at the top, I just kind of talk a little bit about myself and have just like a quick hook into as to who I am before even getting into the work. I just like I understand the value and importance of like who a person is. And so I just wanted to put just a little bit of that up front and make sure the value is on the human side before we even look at the work side, because I think that's kind of secondary. Okay, if you can keep scrolling. There's a little bit of a bio that we do not have to click on, but there's just a little bit more about me. I like things, as you can see, and then I just get into a bunch of different projects. So again, super outdated demo reel. It's 5 coming up on 6 years old. A bunch of projects that we could kind of very quickly get through. Anything from like, again, we're getting into some title stuff here to more traditional advertising work as well. Got a section here at the bottom that's just a lot of various smaller projects where I'm not really doing like a project breakdown. But if you want to scroll back up, we don't have to watch a project, but you can kind of see how I break down some of these. If you click on, maybe click on that one with all the pink. Yeah, or like the peanut buttery one or whatever. So I've done a lot of work for Amazon in my days. So these are a series of pieces that play for Amazon. Amazon sells TVs too, who knew? But they've got a whole TV line that they actually make. And so this is ads for their TVs. And so we start with a little bit of a demo about how these TVs, like what their capabilities and specs are. And so it kind of goes through this whole sequence. Kind of fun, just showing some eye candy of the product itself. We don't have to watch this whole thing. You can scroll down. It's going to punch in right here. It's kind of cool. Goes into all this like kind of cool eye candy crazy stuff. But we're also showing it in a bunch of CG rooms that we built out, and you can keep scrolling. We don't need to pause on any of this stuff. A little bit of a write-up in terms of how we executed the work, who our partners were, who our credits were, like what artists actually contributed to the work. Keep going. And you'll see just like snippets behind the scenes, things that led into the actual project, like play blasts and still frames from different shots. All of this is 3D work. A bunch of exploratory stuff, things that went into, creating the final projects.
Super cool. I love that, guys. Thank you for sharing that a little bit, because I think it's always important for us to see a little bit of the visual side. We're kind of like seeing you talk, and so it's cool to kind of see your work. I would love for us, if you guys are okay with that, to kind of jump right in the Q&A, because there's so many good questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, guys. I'm just kind of letting you know, because we've got about 20 minutes or so in front of us, but I've already kind of listed down some of them, and we will do our best to get to them. So Patrick, Ilgi, if I can ask you to be concise if you can on those answers, so that we can get through them. But there was one that received a bunch of thumbs up, which was, what is something you wish you knew about the industry before you got into it? I think that's a really great question.
Okay, my quick version is how important relationships are, and your personality, and how able you are to collaborate. That none of these projects, even though when you're in school, you're probably doing a lot of individual projects. Most of your assignments will not be individual. You will have a creative director, you will have a client. You can't be too precious about the work. And so you will get feedback and need revisions, but you will also need to be likable. You will need to be able to hear feedback, ingest it, interpret it, execute it. You will need to talk to people a lot. And so there's just an element of pure social likability and easy to work with. The way Ilga even found her way to us is through a friendship, a mutual friend that we had too. And that was someone that I had worked with in Chicago. Ilga was living in LA. That person moved to LA, and they had worked together, and then we got linked up through that. And so, the value of friendship and likability and all those things, dependability, are vital.
Totally.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Ilga.
Well, that was a perfect answer, I guess. Networking and soft skills, like how to present yourself, work on your confidence, work on your dependability. Like if you're saying you're gonna do something, make sure that you're doing it. Also, I thought going to a school would be I think going to school educates you technically, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your eye is getting educated. I think you need to educate your eye. For color, composition, movement, you need to just watch old movies, new movies, watch as many things as possible, look at magazines, look at posters, anything you can find, and make sure that you understand color, composition. Understanding it is very important. I think the school sometimes teaches you that, sometimes it just stays very technical. I think you just need to educate your own eye too. I
like that. I think that's a really great advice too. And guys, I hope you're taking a couple pointers here and notes. So somebody's asking look, this sounds like a huge volume of work, right? And that's a real thing in this industry. It's very glamorous, it's really cool, but it's a lot of work. They're asking what do you do to prevent burnout? I think that's a big question specifically for this upcoming generation of professionals coming into the industry. I'm sure you're seeing that. So perhaps you can give information on that.
Should I go? I mean, I like working so much. We are both so passionate people, so we get to overwork ourselves a lot. But I think giving yourself a break. Social media has been a thing that I think you feel like you need to produce something constantly, which is very exhausting. I think it's okay to give yourself a break. You have to remind yourself that you need a couple days off and do something that is not screen related. Do something completely different. Do something manual if you can with your hands. I think that's been helping me personally. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree completely. My hobbies are not on a computer. They are doing different things completely, very tactile things. So that's major for me. relationships and like finding things to get into as well, like outside of work. And I've got a wife and a small child, and so like putting a lot of love and attention and energy into that too makes my work more rewarding. Oh,
she's here.
Oh my God.
Excuse me, one moment.
That was perfect timing.
That's amazing. Wow. I want to cue $1 million. So coming in.
Right?
Fine. Awesome. So I think a lot of the questions also from like that I'm seeing are from like what's a standout application for you guys? A lot of those people here on this call, they're junior, we gave them some tips for their portfolios, but truth is there's not, still a lot to kind of showcase, right? Which is totally normal. What's standing out for you in an application? Like whether it's going to be portfolio related, whether it's going to be outside of the portfolio, or the way they're conveying in their application. I think that's really cool for us to hear from you because you're recruiting as well, right? So we'd love to hear that.
It's just very hard to quantify that with a simple answer.
Yeah.
It's really a combination of different things that really amount to something that feels cohesive. I think I'm honestly trying to summarize it in the most simple way. Quality of work, just straight up, like being very good, showing that you understand why you're good also. Not being cocky, I'm not saying that, but like showing the process and how you got to being where you are, I think is very good. Having something about you, just having some of your background. I look the certain way. My whole like branding is very like personal to me. And so I think that's something that I try to incorporate and try to put out there, because people will get on a call with me and they might expect me to act a certain way, but then I speak more eloquently than I might look, and those sorts of things. And I think there's something to be said for just being unique, having a voice, that goes along with really good work. I think that's like pretty crucial.
Love that.
I agree with that. And I did something when I was applying for a master's. You get to do like application packages for everything. I agree with Patrick. I did branding. I had a logo. I had like colors, everything about my website, my application documents, everything had that branding. I think that that says a lot about how you approach to a task, and seeing an overall picture and having confidence in yourself. I think that made me stand out from other applicants for sure. So I would recommend having like a brand identity for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. The work that we do is such a variety. You might go from one product that has a certain style and look straight into a different assignment that is completely different in every manner, right? And so that versatility and being able to understand why a certain brand looks and feels a certain way is really important. It's really, really important. And so even if you don't always have that exact kind of work in your portfolio, showing that you understand why things are good and why things look that way through your own, even if they're personal projects, that's like very, very helpful.
I like that. And that's something that we talk about a lot in our program as well, as like, building also a personal brand. I think it's a lot of, it's really impactful. So thank you for mentioning that. Somebody's asking, one of our actually participants is asking, what roles do you hire, maybe within your department, because I'm sure there's a lot of different roles at the mill, but is it primarily animators? Like, do you ever need style frames, storyboard artists, like other types of positions? Like typically, of course, not specifically right now.
Yeah. That's a really great question. So I like generalists. I like people that can either do like mostly 2D and After Effects driven work, or mostly cinema or 3D style work, but can do a little bit of everything. That's what I like the most. Style frames, animation, compositing. I like having people that are versatile and can get in and do a lot of different things. For a business, it can be harder to have someone that is so specialized that you can only do one individual thing. And so it's always easier just to find someone that can do a little bit of everything, and that is like sort of generalized enough that you're not having to have them sit around until the perfect project comes in that fits their skill set. We do have people across our group that specialize in style frames only or animation only, but it can just be like a little bit more of a struggle to like keep them constantly kind of busy.
Yeah, totally understood. Ilgi, I don't know if there's something that you want to add, or if this should go towards mainly Patrick, because
No, I agree with Patrick on that. I think it's more versatile. It gives you a little bit more opportunity. But if you are, I mean, lately, I feel like people who are not interested in 3D have this pressure to do 3D too. If you're not interested in it, if you're a really, really good 2D animator, there's so much value in that too.
For sure.
So I don't want, like, we constantly sometimes look for like a good 2D person, and it's becoming harder to find people that are specialized like that too. So if you're not into it, don't do it just because. Just get really good at something. But if you can do everything, that's also a big, that's how I am. It opened a lot of doors for me to be able to put you in any kind of position.
right?
And so much of this too is foundational. So much of this changes over the course of your career too. Like when you're starting out, you want that versatility ideally. And then as you get more experience and you can kind of like point to the experience that you've got under your belt, then you can start refining and saying like, no, I only want to do particle work, or no, I only want to do style frames. That's easier to do after a certain point. But I think starting out, you want to just like be versatile.
That's true. Yeah.
And just a follow-up question on that about, the male like recruiting. Do you have remote work opportunities? Is it mainly like in office? And also, what's your ratio between hiring, and maybe we're getting a bit technical, but I'm just pumping some questions here. Do you hire mainly people that are like full-time, or do you work a lot with freelance? Because I know a lot of agencies, of course, because you need to remain agile, right? Based on projects, hire a lot of freelancers. So how does that work for you guys? So I guess remote versus in office, and then maybe full-time versus freelance.
I'll answer the remote one. Yes, we work remotely. We have offices in LA and New York that they go to the office.
And London.
I think twice a
And
day.
London though.
Oh, and London. I was talking about America. Sorry. Yes. But we are in Chicago, and we are working remotely from Chicago to every office you can find.
We have offices in Amsterdam and Seoul, Korea. We've got in Paris. So we are very much a global company. But yes, we are full-time remote. So, that is not an issue. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Full-time versus like freelance.
So we for sure have a core of staff artists. Absolutely. But we use a lot of freelance help. In our office alone, we have 16 freelancers currently working with us. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's awesome. Thanks guys for all the great questions. By the way, we've got 10 minutes left together, so we'll try to make the most of it. And obviously that means we might have to do that again soon. Somebody's asking a great question. What has been the most surreal experience you've had in your career? And I don't know if you recall something, but I think it's a great question.
What's the question? Sorry.
The most surreal experience you've had in your career. Like the most,
For me, I think working with Jon Favreau was a surreal moment for me. That was like he was talking to me, and I couldn't believe that he was talking to me. I think that was an out-of-body experience, but
that's good.
Yeah. I think for me also, like, I live in Turkey, and people from Turkey sometimes say like, hey, we saw that work that you did, and that's also like crazy to me. I sometimes forget how the work we do like goes globally, and that becomes very surreal all of a sudden too.
Pretty badass, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do kind of when you're out and about, you're not thinking about your job all the time.
Yeah.
If you're somewhere doing something, and then all of a sudden you see your work on a screen playing somewhere, you're like, oh yeah, I did that. That's kind of surreal. But also I will say, this, not to dampen the mood here, but I was laid off at one point 10 years ago. I worked for somewhere for a very long time. Unfortunately, the business that we work within is competitive and ebbs and flows. That's why we have freelance and the way that we do. And I worked somewhere for 10 years, and there was a big impact in the industry and in my company, and I was laid off. And that was like very surreal, but it's also very, very common, unfortunately. And so as much as you love a company and want to work there, and sometimes there are things that happen that are bigger than you, and it's unfortunate, it feels very shocking, but I would say most people in this industry are impacted by a layoff at some point. So
that's something that everybody's gotta, ride the wave, right? And just
totally.
Yeah.
Thanks for being real. That's also something that, we tend to talk about only the positive stuff, right? But there's also some hard things that happen.
Yeah, totally. There are those things, and still I'm like the head of design at the mill, and so like one layoff or one bad thing that happened does not need to impact your entire career either.
Right, that makes sense. And just to make a transition of that, you were talking about, freelance, right, as well, and kind of like the fact that companies are utilizing a lot of freelance because sometimes that's what you also have to do. Somebody's asking about, like, and I think that will be interesting for a lot of people, how do you maintain clients? I don't know, you mentioned that you were working a little bit freelance as well, so how do you maintain clients as a freelancer? Like, do you have any tips for future or current freelancers out there?
Ilgi, do you want to take that first?
Yes, I think being dependable for me was the key. Delivering things on time, delivering them with good quality of work, just not being flaky, not like being real with your client is one of the biggest. Like if something is doable, if you say that you're gonna do it, you have to do it. If something is not doable and you say yes to it and then you can't deliver, then you lost that client forever. So that's my biggest tip, I think.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I think that's totally dead on. And that goes for full time too, when you're like working somewhere full time. And if you're being asked to do something that's out of your like ability or schedule or whatever, to be honest, I think that's always really helpful.
Yeah.
I think too, just keeping your relationships up. So like if you're naturally making friends with your clients, or if you have other freelance friends that you're meeting in the industry, maintaining that just like you would a friend. Checking in with them, like saying, hey, I'm out here, I've got an opening availability coming up, or, hey, you got anything? I think just being communicative without being too much, without just being like annoyingly hitting them up, I think is good. Like, yeah. I think if that's the case and someone else that a company has reached out to and they're unavailable and you're friends with them, they might recommend you. They might say like, hey, hit up my friend Ilga. She's really great and she'll kill this. She'll be perfect for you. And so that's just like another example of relationships.
Right. And actually somebody is asking a great question right now that I think a lot of people are thinking about. Is like, as fresh grads, do you recommend going more on the full-time route or on the freelance route to begin with?
Yes.
Full-time.
Full-time.
Yeah, I think you just need someone to show you you've learned enough about how to do certain types of work, but there are other soft skills that haven't been developed yet. And so going full-time, you'll learn how business works and how to communicate about work. And it's just good to have someone that's responsibly looking out for you and is vetting your own career and is like responsibly kind of showing you how to do things. So I've known people that have gone straight into freelance from college, and you can just tell they're just not quite as refined.
Yeah, learning how to work with a team, in the team, being part of a collaboration, I think definitely is so important. Full-time for sure.
Great. Guys, we are at 3 minutes, so maybe I'll ask one last question and then we'll wrap this up. Any resources that you're utilizing to stay updated and find inspirations as designers and creatives?
Oh,
Ooh.
man.
Hardest one.
Well, I think what Ilga said is good earlier. She said just never turn off.
Yeah.
Like always look at things, always scrutinize things, always be aware of what works outside of your medium, outside of like animation or design or whatever. Always look at things.
Yeah.
I love Instagram. I follow loads of artists and I save stuff on Instagram all the time. It seems so like obvious, but my bookmarks in Instagram is massive.
Love that.
I am weird a little. I still buy art magazines just to like turn, because I don't see that kind of stuff online often. It's like a completely fresh take on like composition, color, that kind of stuff. So I love magazines personally, but I know I'm not common.
But that's cool to see, right? And I love what you said about the old films and the new films and just seeing, like, just really being out there and watching as much as possible and learning about color. And I think that's a great advice. Guys, this was so awesome. Thank you so much for, like, being in this conversation with us. I think this was real. And I think that there was so much, like, valuable insight here that, I've gained as well, being in the industry, not your industry, but being in the field for many years. So I think on behalf of everybody here who's on this session, we want to thank you a lot, for sharing your insights. And can I just go ahead and, Yelena, I don't know if you've done it already, but can I go ahead and like share the portfolios, both portfolios for everybody here, and we'll send you all an email with a recording of this. And if that's okay with you guys, we can also perhaps share those links. I think it's cool for young professionals to see what's being out there, what's being done out there. Thank you, Elena. So you have one here that's coming up. And Patrick, Ilgi, thank you so much again. Really appreciate you guys and love our relationship with the Mill. You guys are legends.
Yeah, of course, happy to do it. Easy to help people, as I said. Like getting into the industry, it's a scary thing sometimes, but happy to do it.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming today and including us. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. Yelena, thank you also for organizing this. And everybody, thanks for staying for 1 hour in the evening, in your time. So we'll be in touch. We'll shoot you an email so you have the recording. You can go back to it. And Patrick, Ilgi, best of luck for the upcoming projects. And I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.